The St. Tammany Parish Board of Adjustment meeting, March the 3rd, is now called to order. Ms. Secretary, would you please call the roll, please?
Mr. Fandle?
Here.
Mr. Brookter? Here. Mr. Snyder? Here. Mr. Ballantyne? Here. Mr. Gordon? Here. Mrs. Thomas? Here. Mr. Guidry? Here. Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Okay, did everyone get a copy of the minutes from our February 4th meeting? Can I get a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting.
Do I have a second? Can everybody please vote with your lights?
Who seconded?
Tom and Lewis.
Okay. Motion carries.
We don't have election of officers now. We did that. We had election of officers, we already did that. But why?
Removed it.
Huh?
I removed it. Oh, it's not, it's still.
It's not,
okay,
no,
just-
okay. We have a request to, our last case, to move that up to the first case. I'd like to get a motion from the board to move the last case on the agenda up first.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Would everyone please vote with the lights?
Motion carries.
Okay, so our first case is BOA case number 2020-1798, BOA, request by applicant in a plan unit development overlay to waive the portion of the required 25-foot yard buffer to allow for the driveway access and an additional parking lot to reduce the required rear yard buffer from 10 feet to 4.5 feet, 7 inches, and to 10.13 inches, and to relocate the required number of Class A and Class B trees on the east and west side of the proposed parking lot. The property is located at 860 Oak Harbor Boulevard, Slidell, Louisiana. The applicant and representative is Juan Lies and Alibis David Morrell. The applicant is requesting to waive a portion of the required 25-foot front yard to reduce the required rear yard buffer and to relocate the required number of Class A and Class B trees within the front buffer. Staff comments, please.
The applicant is seeking to waive a portion of the required 25-foot front buffer and also to reduce the required rear yard setback to allow for an additional driveway access and a parking lot. The proposed driveway and additional parking spaces also trigger the request to relocate the required number of Class A and Class B trees on the east and west sides of the proposed parking lot. Note that the objective of the request is to provide additional parking spaces for the customers dining at the restaurant. Staff does not have any objection to the request, considering that the additional parking spaces are proposed to be provided to reduce the parking on the street, which would cause safety concerns involving pedestrians and vehicles. The property boundaries are not conventional and constitute a hardship.
Is the applicant present?
I'm the owner of the property. Unfortunately, Mr. Dave Morrell passed away Thursday. But I'm the owner of the property. I'm here, I guess, on his behalf. We're still requesting.
Would you please state your name and address for the record?
Charles Loescher.
You can put a mic down.
I'm sorry,
closer
Charles
to-
Loescher,
Your address, please.
1601 Oxbow Lane, Covington, Louisiana.
Mr. Hauser, do you have anything further to add?
No, it's the lots are very weird shape. They come to a narrowing point, and there's no really no other way to get additional parking other than ask for the 25-foot variance. It's, the way the lots are shaped, it's almost impossible. And really for the business to really make it, it really needs some additional parking for the employees and for the customers.
Okay. Anything else? Is there anyone else in the audience that wants to speak against this, or
No, not against it.
do you want to speak?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much. And you might be able to answer some of this, but I just need to. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. So I'm Councilman Jerry Bender. That's Council District 12, Oak Harbor is in my council district. It's not an objection. My friend Dave Morrell, like other people's friend, passed away tragically from a massive heart attack. I think the documentation I received, which we're now receiving the BOA meeting information, okay, I only saw Dave Morrell's name on it. And then in the last couple of days, I started hearing he had a partner, but nobody knew the name of the partner. That's nothing against you, Mr. Boucher. Okay, you're the what, sir? Do you mind if I ask?
Just address the board, and we can
Okay.
find out.
So, Mr. Chairman, would you then ask, so I can understand, who's the owner of the property and who's the owner of the building that needs the variance? Because
Okay.
I think I'm hearing there's two different people here.
Okay, thank you. Would you please step forward again, Mr.?
I'm clear on this. The actual owner of the property is me, which is on an LLC, Dr. Lisa Loescher, LLC. We own the lots in the building. I developed the lots in the building. Mr. Dave Morrell and Dennis Giblett were going to be tenants of the building, and they're going to lease they're leasing the parking lots in the building to run a wine and a restaurant bar.
So you own the property?
And I'm the developer. I built the building. I own it. I'm leasing it back to them.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, and I met Mr. Dennis Giblier, he says 50-50 partner with Dave Morrell. I only had, and I read that the staff recommendation was, you know, for the additional parking. I can tell you, I certainly do not want people parking along Oak Harbor Boulevard, so I don't have an objection to the additional parking, okay? I trust our staff to have reviewed this properly as far as the replacement of the trees. Not going to be an elimination of trees, it'll be a replacement, as I understand it, correct? Helen?
Well, you're gonna, you want me to, your question is, are they gonna be replacing the trees?
A relocation of the trees.
Relocation. Helen?
Correct. The trees are requested to be relocated on the east and west side of the parking lot.
Okay. So, Mr. Chairman, my question to the staff is, on Oak Harbor has architectural committee that has to approve every building. That's from every single home that's been built in all 7 subdivisions and the commercial on the boulevard, okay? My only question is this. I know that the boulevard is in my road maintenance inventory. We maintain it. Therefore, I'm sure we have, the BOA has the ability to make variances and vote on them, okay? I'm simply asking, and Mr. Chairman, this might be for Ms. Carlin, do we have the authority to make variances of this latitude without consulting their architectural committee? Or do we have full ability on this?
Yes, I'll change it.
So there are really probably 2 levels of approval that these owners will need. The BOA certainly has the ability to provide variances for the parish ordinances, but I'm not familiar with these homeowner regulations. Those are separate and apart from the BOA. They may still need to go to that homeowners association and get those permissions as well. They'll need 2 levels of permissions, basically, is what it sounds like.
Is it possible, Mr. Chairman, that you could ask the owner of the property in the building whether he knows anything regarding needing a separate approval by them?
I would ask the owner. Are you familiar with the
Yes, sir.
the rules and regulations of the?
In the first parking lot already. That was all approved. However, Oak Harbor's in shambles right now, so it's hard to get any answers, but they have approved the first building in the first parking lot that was permitted and already closed out Okay, we're going to submit this, we submitted the second parking lot, as far as I know also. Okay?
Is that on this same piece of property? You saying two?
Yeah, it was all approved.
Okay.
You're correct.
All right, thank you.
All right. The parking lot in the building was approved already.
All right,
The first parking lot.
Mr. Chairman, could I keep the gentleman up here a second? Because I want to make very sure, since he said the parking lot did have to be, I apologize, Mr. Chairman, but I never come to BOA meetings. I don't come to Board of Zoning meetings because on zoning and planning, they come to the council if there is a, if there is a appeal. On BOA, they do not come to the council.
that's correct.
So you've never seen me before BOA. I would ask a little bit of latitude so I can respectfully be fair in my views to the owner, to the people who want to open the building, but also to the people who live in Oak Harbor and the other commercial buildings who have had to go through a process. I simply want to understand the process. So
No,
my,
you put a
Wait,
deposit down, I'll tell you that.
I'm not going to, excuse, point of order. We're not going to have a discussion between the two of you.
Right.
If you, excuse me. If you have a question.
Mr. Chairman,
if you have
I'm finished. You all can vote. There will be changes.
If you have a question, direct it to me and I can direct.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. I directed my question to you.
Yes.
I'm getting eyes, nods, like this, that, okay? Like I am here wasting your time. If you don't want to spend your time on my question, and I said, I'm never before y'all. This man died. Half of the part owner of this thing died. There are legitimate questions.
We're not denying your question, but we're not going to have an open discussion.
Ask him
I will
about
ask-
the
I will-
second, about this piece of property. Has this lot, has this parking lot gone before them and been approved with this variance? That's my question.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
good. Yes,
It's
I think your mic is on.
for Carlin, really. Does the Board of Adjustments have to take in consideration a homeowners association, deed restriction covenant, or any other restriction on that property? Or are we only concerned with the code of ordinances for the parish, and any other approvals that the property needs would have to go through that process separately and either be approved or denied? So just because that we approve something here at this board or deny something doesn't necessarily mean it will be approved or denied somewhere else.
That's correct. The parish providing an approval would mean that the parish would not be instituting code enforcement proceedings, that we're going to allow this building to be built using whatever variance the board may or may not grant. That does not mean that there might not be a separate civil action by the Oak Harbor HOA or any other private property owner if they did not get the approval that they needed to get from that organization. They're just two completely separate sets of rules that apply to this particular piece of property.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, one last comment. Because I was not at the microphone and didn't have the floor, I was able to speak to the gentleman. What he just informed me of, well, and I'm sorry, but that's just the way it is. I'm just trying to make the process shorter.
As a point of order
Yeah.
here, we have a board here, and that's what we do. So why don't you let us do it? We ask questions, we find these answers. Am I not allowed to say
You're
this?
doing it poorly, sir, because
We haven't had an opportunity.
I asked the gentleman to ask him the question when he was at the
I called for point of
microphone.
order early when you were speaking, sir. This is
Okay,
our own.
Sir, guess what? That's fine. You all want to play hardball
We're not
on a
playing
situation
hardball.
where a
We're just playing
50% partner is passed away after this has been proposed. Now, this gentleman just told me, so that you all will know the facts, unless you want to ask him, which I asked you to do,
When were
that
we given a chance?
his board, sir,
Sir, nothing. When were
Sir,
we given
I'm
a point of
watching this
order?
gentleman.
We have a point of order here.
Yeah, it's good.
Yes.
May I have a moment with Mr. Bender?
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Now, I'm gonna give them a couple minutes here, and then we're gonna continue.
Mr. Chairman, I'm finished speaking.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, I see Mr. Gordon, you have a question?
Yes, I do. Would the gentleman please? Whoever was initially speaking that had the floor.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I don't have the paperwork for this particular file,
Okay,
I
I'm sorry.
apologize, but what was your name?
Charles Loescher.
Okay, Mr. Lotion.
Yes, sir.
First off, I live in Oak Harbor.
Correct.
Oak Harbor's not in shambles. Number
Well,
one.
I didn't mean that.
Number two.
Yeah, okay.
This has already been poured.
Right.
This is an after the fact. I don't know if everybody on this board realizes it.
I didn't even know that, too.
The concrete's already been poured.
I didn't even know, Dave.
Number three, absolutely, you have to have permission from Oak Harbor. and
Correct.
the parish to do
That's correct.
anything.
That's correct. I'm not disagreeing with you. I had to put $1,600 deposit up with Oak Harbor Boulevard to get approval. What I meant by shambles is that Mr. Vey and them will not get back to anybody. They split up, the partnership split up, and they gave the whole subdivision to somebody else to manage, and you can't get in touch with anyone. And they don't respond. I've been trying to get my deposit back for 3 months now.
Next question, how was this building approved from the get-go without sufficient parking?
It had sufficient parking.
If it has
It-
sufficient
I-
parking, why is additional parking required?
Mr. Morrow, after the building was finished and the parking was put in, he requested if he could put another 9 spaces because he felt like he was going to have more business than he could handle with just them spaces. That he felt like he needed additional 9 to make the business work based on the rents and stuff like that.
Okay, so my question is staff, just to confirm, there were no issues as far as parking in the building initially. They met the requirements for a wine bar with the limited number of parking spots that
That's
they
correct.
submitted.
That's correct.
Thank you very much. And yes, there is a hardship there, and I do understand it. It's also a very nice building. I think it's
Thank
very
you.
attractive on the.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
boulevard.
Thank
I think
you.
y'all did a very nice job.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Mr. Ballantyne?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the variance as requested, subject to that gentleman getting the approval from the homeowners association.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? I'm going to wait for legal to get back in here, so hopefully legal will be here. Let me just, see, Mr. Gordon, you got a question?
Could-
We have a motion on the floor, but we have to open discussion now.
I don't have, where's my mic?
Your mic should be, I have you on the floor, so you should, I'll get the mic control and get you on. All right, Greg, it's on now.
Testing.
Wait a minute, it went off. My screen's acting up. See if it's,
Mr. Loescher, could you come back up and answer a question, please?
Yes, sir.
You submitted paperwork, you said, to Oak Harbor for the additional parking.
We believe we emailed it to Mr. Vey.
You believe you did.
Yeah, we
So
put
you don't
we have a
know,
$1,600 deposit with them.
that's on your initial contract to
But-
build and all.
Right. Well,
You don't know if you submitted anything
Dave
for the.
Morrell said that he was going to submit it, and he was going through Chuck Damon.
Okay,
to
and
get
I
us-
understand the situation. I mean,
He
we
was the
knew.
one that wanted it. He asked my permission to do it. He submitted it to the parish. I didn't.
You don't know if it was done.
I'm not sure if he went to Vey. He said he was emailing to the parish and Vey.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
does anyone else has any questions? You have another one?
Just a comment, I wanted to
Just
have
a
legal
minute,
back before.
Okay, just a second, I got them on mic. I think hopefully I got these mics working again, okay? My lights
I'm back
should-
on.
should be back on. Go ahead, you got a question?
I want the motion to be restated while legal's here.
Would you please state your motion, Don?
Yes, sir.
Let me. My screen is acting up.
Your mic is on.
I make a motion to approve the request for variance as requested, subject to the applicant getting permission, getting approval from the homeowners association.
Just a second.
I would not recommend that you make a motion subject to homeowners association approval, as this board should really just be considering the parish ordinances, and it will be up to the property owner and between the property owner and the homeowners association to make sure that he's following all private civil contracts that he may have with the homeowners association or that may run with his land.
I amend my motion. I make a motion to approve the variance as requested.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have a motion and a second? Do we have any discussion or questions?
From a point of order, he had made an initial motion.
And he withdrew his motion.
He withdrew it?
Yes,
All right,
he withdrew it. I don't know, I guess you didn't hear him, but he did withdraw his motion.
all right.
So we have a motion and a second. Does anyone have any questions? Hearing none, would everyone please vote with your lights?
Motion pass.
Okay. Our next case is BOA case number 2019. Let me get my mic back. 2019-1702 BOA. This was postponed from 12/3/19 and 1/7/2020 and 2/4/2020 meetings. The request by applicant in an A1 suburban zoning district for an after-the-fact waiver of the required front, side, and rear no-cut buffers. The property is located at 28132 Pinecombe Road, Abita Springs, Louisiana. The applicant and representative is Loretta Jorel. Request by applicant for an after-the-fact variance to waive the required 25-foot no-cut buffer along the front and 50-foot no-cut buffers on the sides and rear of the property. Staff comments, please.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Gerald sent an email on Friday, February 28th, requesting to postpone the case.
Okay, we have a request from Mr. Jorel to postpone this case again. Do I have a motion from the board? Well, good. Mr. Jorel, you want to comment since you're here? Please give your name and address again for the records.
William Jarrell. We are requesting to postpone because after we had a meeting with the parish and everything, we have sent a proposal of the landscaping survey as well as the survey itself, and we didn't agree with what we had proposed. So we had the engineer to go back and redo the survey, and we also redoing the landscaping survey as well. And we resubmitted the survey, but we're working on resubmitting the landscaping survey. That's why we're requesting a cancellation.
Okay, I see that Mr. Gordon, you have a question?
Make a motion to postpone.
We have a motion to postpone in a second. Do we have any discussion? Or just a second. Mr. Valentine?
While we continue to postpone and put this off, that land is sitting out there bare. And every time it rains, part of that silt and all is running off into the stream behind the property and the normal drainage and blocking it up. So nothing's being done, yet the people out there have the flooding and the drainage problems caused by this property that are not getting rectified. Secondly, I'd like to know how there's an order from the Corps of Engineers concerning the Clean Water Act. And you had 30 days from 12/19/2019 or something to start doing something on the property. Do you have some agreement with the Corps of Engineers? And my problem is nothing's being done.
At the last meeting that we came, the question was asked by, I think, I'm not sure how to pronounce the name, about the land itself and the clearing of the land. The land do have grass on it, sir. It took me 2 days. Sir, can I speak? You're not out there. It takes me 2 days to cut the property with a tractor. It do have grass on it. I was given permission to put more grass on the property, and we're in the process of doing that. I just purchased the grass. So the grass is on the property, and the Corps of Engineer did give us approval to put the trees back on the property. However, it was questioned last board meeting why we hadn't did anything. We had no permission to go further to do anything to that property. It was stopped by the parish. That's why nothing been done, sir.
We have a motion on the floor. Do we have any other discussion? Hearing none, would everyone please vote with your lights?
Mr. Fandel? 4 yeas and 1 nay.
Motion passes. Our next case is BOA case number 2020-1783 BOA, request by applicant in an A4 single-family residential zoning district to increase the maximum allowable height for a single-family residence from 35 feet to 39 feet above the base flood elevation. The property is located at 394 and 395 Magnolia Lane, Mandeville, Louisiana. The applicant is Howard Kenyon II and Deborah West Kenyon. The representative is Jones Fussell LLP by Paul Marone. The applicant is requesting to increase the maximum allowable height from 35 feet to 39 feet above the base flood elevation. Staff comments, please.
The request is to allow for the construction of a single-family residence at a height of 39 feet above the base flood elevation. Based on the current FEMA maps, the base flood elevation for the lots in question is 10 feet, and the maximum height of the single-family residence is 35 feet or 45 feet above the ground level. The owner is planning to build a residence with a finished floor elevation of 14 feet or 4 foot above the required base flood elevation to avoid potential flooding in the future. The owner wants to build at a higher elevation, but limiting the height to the code does not prevent the construction of a single-family residence on the site. Staff does not recommend approval of the requested variance, considering that no hardship has been demonstrated.
See the applicant, will you please state your name and address, Mr. Marone?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Paul Marone, P.O. Box 1810, Covington, Louisiana 70434. I'm appearing today on behalf of Mr. and Mrs. Kenyon. The property in question, as Ms. Lambert noted, and as you'll see in your packet, are 2 lots located in Beauchene. They front and are along the Tchefuncte River. Currently, both of these lots are vacant. My client intends to construct a new single-family home on these lots, and although the FEMA base flood elevation in this area is 10, given my client's past history with the area and his familiarity with the Tchefuncte River, he proposes to construct at 14 feet. My client has lived in this area for many years. He weathered both Hurricanes Rita and Katrina, Isaac and Rita in this area, and so he's keenly aware of what the river can do, what it has done. And as a result of that, given that history, he feels strongly that he needs to be above the 10-foot base flood elevation, and that's why he's proposing the finished floor elevation of the home to be at 14. By raising the finished floor elevation to 14, that results in exceeding the maximum height limitation by 4 feet, thus giving rise to the need for the variance and our appearance before you this evening. You will see in your packet that we have submitted letters from our neighbors who have no objection. We have submitted letters from the Beauchene Homeowners Association with no objection. And as set forth in the letter from the Beauchene Homeowners Association, there are other homes in this vicinity that already exceed the maximum height limitation. I bring up the Homeowners Association, not suggesting that you are bound by that. I did hear the discussions that took place earlier in the meeting, and I recognize that any decision that the Homeowners Association may or may not make is certainly not binding in any way on this board. However, historically, we felt that it was helpful, at least for this board, to have a sense of some of the opinions of the surrounding neighbors or perhaps the Homeowners Association. That's the sole purpose for submitting that to you this afternoon. I would submit to you that the hardship in this case is not self-imposed, but that it does exist, and it exists because of the confluence of 3 factors. First, the location of the property immediately adjacent on the Tchefuncte River. Secondly, the current and the historic flooding along that river. We know, and we have all witnessed in St. Tammany Parish, let's just say in the last 5 years, but certainly in the last 10 years, we have seen that river leave its banks in ways that we have not seen typically. And that trend, we believe, is likely to continue. My client believes is likely to continue. And that is a factor beyond his control. Finally, the 35-foot height limitation that the UDC has and the methodology by which the height of the structure is calculated. None of these, I would submit to you, are self-imposed. None of those are directly within our control. What do I mean when I say the methodology of calculating the height of a building? Well, the code says that the height of the structure is determined by including half of the height of the roof from the eave. Half of the height of the roof from the eave. So, as we know, there are a myriad of different roof types. For example, if we had a sloped roof or a mansard roof, we could have a structure that was in fact much higher than we're proposing, but would be in total compliance with your regulations. And we wouldn't be here today. But because we are proposing a parapet roof, then those calculations don't work, and it does require us to come here based on that methodology. I'm not suggesting to you that there is something wrong with the code or wrong with the methodology. It is what it is. We abide by it, and that's why we're here today, to ask for that variance. But I pointed out, just to point out again, that these issues that I raise are not issues of our own doing and are not self-imposed on us. So we would respectfully request your consideration of the variance for the 4 additional feet. I would respectfully submit to you that it will have no negative impact on our neighbors or anybody around us. That is evidenced by no objection from our neighbors, included in your packet, and from the Homeowners Association, and the fact that there are other homes in the area that exceed the height limitation. So with that being said, I'll be happy to answer any questions that any of the board members may have, but we would respectfully request your consideration and approval of the variance requested. Thank you.
Mr. Ballantyne?
I make a motion to approve the variance request as submitted.
I second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Do we have any discussion or questions by anyone? Hearing none, would everyone please vote with your lights?
Motion passed.
Our next case is BOA case number 2020-1793, BOA. This has been withdrawn. Do I need to read out the comments on it? That one has been withdrawn. Our next case is BOA case number 2020-1797, BOA, request by applicant in an A2 suburban district to increase the maximum allowable combined length of an accessory structure from 50 feet to 57 feet and 6.5 inches to allow for the construction of a 1,351 square foot accessory structure. The property is located at 9 Oak Lawn Drive, Covington, Louisiana. The applicant is Mark Schwager. The representative is Jones Fussell LLC, Jeffrey Shane. The applicant is requesting to increase the maximum allowable combined length of an accessory structure from 50 feet to 57 feet, 6.5 inches. Staff comments, please.
The objective of the request is to allow for the construction of a 1,351 square foot accessory structure. No hardship has been demonstrated. However, staff is not opposed to this request, considering that the proposed accessory building will not exceed the maximum allowable size of 7.5% of the area of the lot on which the main building is situated.
See the applicant's present. Mr. Shane, would you please state your name and address for the records, please?
Sure, yes, sir. Jeff Shane of the Jones Fussell Law Firm, P.O. Box 1810 in Covington. I represent the property owner through Mr. Mike Martin, who's with me this evening with DMM Construction. He is the general contractor that hopes to build this accessory structure. In connection with our request, I think the staff packet lays out our need, but I would like to maybe just briefly summarize what's going on. This is a property site, a lot in Jafuncta Club Estates. It actually is going to be a tear down and a rebuild of a new residence, but the first phase is the construction of some accessory structures. The gentleman that owns the property and will be living at this site has a bus, extended RV, whatever, that obviously will not fit within the confines of the 50-foot limit of code. I appreciate staff remarking in its report that if this variance is granted, the square footage of the accessory structures does not exceed the 7.5% cap, which is the code limit on aggregate square footage for accessory structures on the lot. As hopefully all of you have seen in the packet, the neighbor that abuts this property, Mr. Reggie Fielding, obviously was consulted and signed a letter of no objection. Also, in Jafuncta Club Estates, there is, of course, an architectural control committee and board, which again, we have included their approval of this site plan. Interestingly, I was with you last month on another case, and this is similar to a case that you heard last month that you may remember, where you granted a variance where someone, I think, was seeking maybe 60 feet in terms of the depth of the accessory structure. And again, in that instance, they did not exceed the aggregate 7.5% portion of the code. So with that having been said, hopefully you can see from the photos and the site plan what we intend to do in terms of building this bus barn in the rear right corner. And we respectfully request the variance that would allow this structure to be the 57.6 feet. I believe that's the right number. That is needed in order to accommodate our needs. If any of you have any questions, I'll be glad to entertain them.
Mr. Ballantyne.
Who is the owner and where is the owner?
Mark Schwager, through Regional Airport, who lives out of state, is the owner. And he signed the application, filed the application, and engaged Mr. Martin, his general contractor, through me, to file this variance request. You will be granting the variance on behalf of the property owner. They are the applicant in this case.
Is there any other questions? Mr. Ballantyne?
I'll make a motion to approve the variance request.
Do
I second.
we have a motion and a second?
Who did the second?
Louis? Do we have any questions? Hearing none, would everyone please vote with your lights?
Mr. Valentine? Mr. Fandle,
I voted,
you voted in favor?
yeah, I
Unless
voted
the-
in favor, but I'm having a problem with this computer here. I voted in favor,
All in favor? Motion passed.
okay? Any old business?
None, maybe.
Old business, go ahead. Yeah, Mr. Snyder?
The letter that we received via email this morning or yesterday, very recently, concerning the Gerald case, will that become a part of the packet for next month?
Mr. Chairman, may I answer that question?
Yes, you may.
Yes, it will be part of your packet.
Thank you.
While we're on that, can I ask a question?
Yes. Yes, go ahead, ask your question.
If, on that same subject, there's a aerial photo of the property from 2017. And I went into my stuff and I couldn't find it. Could we put that back in the package for next time also?
I'd have to ask staff if they still have that. Was that in the package in a prior meeting?
Yes.
I will do my best. I've included everything, but I will research it again. I thought I had included everything from each meeting, but I will research it.
That's
Okay,
wonderful.
that's it? Any other questions? Okay. New business?
Yes. Mr. Liner, did you want to speak about the training?
I just dropped off an advertisement, which I believe you've all received by email. Just a reminder for Planning, Zoning, Board of Adjustments, training in Slidell, coming up on the 14th.
Did everybody get that?
Yes.
Unfortunately, I have a commitment that Saturday morning. I cannot make that. I would. But is this mainly for planning, or is this, will cover BOA
It
also?
does cover it. I believe they might have some additional training in the fall when we have a conference from the American Planning Association, state chapter. So when that comes up, I'll just remind everyone again.
Okay, any questions? Mr. Gidry, just a second.
Please keep us informed. I'm also unavailable on that Saturday, but would like to attend
Yep.
future session.
Any other new business?
Yes. I would like to make a request for all board members to consider maybe changing the time of the meeting to maybe 2 p.m. instead of 3 p.m. Basically, last month as well as the month before, we were here until almost the beginning of the zoning meeting, and it gives very little time to go from one meeting to another, but also, the person who has to set up for the zoning meeting, sometimes it's a little bit into a time crunch. So I would really like for the board members to consider it and see if there's a possibility to move the meeting to 2 o'clock instead of 3 p.m.
All right, I'd like to ask legal, do we have, what kind of type of notice, if we do elect to change the time, do we have to give notices out, and does it violate anything in our bylaws? I'm not familiar with saying that time of our meeting.
Yeah, I did some research, and I didn't see any reference to the specific time that you had to meet. I would recommend that we do, in addition to the legal public notices that the staff takes care of, that maybe we would ask the Public Information Office to put some stuff on our website, and, maybe we don't implement it at, we announce it at a meeting and implement it at the next meeting, just so everyone who customarily attends these meetings is aware of that time change and has time to plan. But as far as can you legally change it, yeah, I think the staff can change it, or the board can vote and request that change as well.
Well, I would like to get comments from each board member, because I know when we all signed up for this, it was a 3 o'clock commitment, the first Tuesday of every month, changing the time, it could affect some board members because they may have other prior engagements and so forth. So I would like to hear from board members initially before we even vote on this, if we want to proceed changing the times, because I know we were under initial commitment of being here for 3 o'clock, and we all made that commitment. We all normally make these meetings.
I support the change to 2 o'clock.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
just wanted to put out for y'all consideration, it's up to you if you want to have a vote today or anything. But again, just presenting the idea for the board to consider.
Well, I'm just trying to get a feel from the board, see how most of the board members feel. And not saying that we have to vote today, but I'd like to see how the feelings of the board, to see if we want to proceed with this, possibly vote on this, or just start looking at the idea of changing it. We don't have to make the decision today. Okay, Louis?
I'm flexible, don't have a problem with it.
What's that?
If we're going to enter into a full-on discussion about this, I would recommend that you take this off the floor. So you make a motion to take an item off the floor to discuss changing the time. And if you're going to vote or get into a discussion where you're asking everyone's opinion, that you do that.
Just take it
I
on.
think he's just getting the feel as to.
Yeah, but that's enough that this is basically adding an item to the agenda. When Helen just made the announcement under new business, that's fine, but if y'all are going to start discussing it, all that has to happen is someone make a motion to open the floor and discuss changing the time, you get a second, you vote, and then you can discuss away like it was on the agenda.
Mr. Gordon?
I make a so move.
I second.
So we have a move to open put it on the floor. So now we all have open discussion on it. Let's go. We got to take a vote of the motion. Excuse me, take a vote of the motion. Whatever, please vote with your lights. This is to open the floor.
Motion carries.
Okay, now it's open, so we can have an open discussion. Yeah, Mr. Snyder?
I prefer 3 o'clock. I prefer 3 o'clock.
Okay. Anyone else? Mr. Gordon?
Carlo get the vote?
I'm fine with 2.
Jules, how do you?
Yeah, I'm fine, flexible.
Christie? So we have, and I'm not saying we have to vote today, but we're just trying to get a feel. Look like we have one member that may have a conflict. Say again?
I still have the floor, it looks like, so the only person that ever attends this is Carlos, and we just told him we're going to do it, so make a motion to do it.
I make a motion to do it. Let's vote today.
Okay, you making a motion to do it? We haven't made, we're gonna have to discuss, first the motion hasn't gotten to the floor, we haven't gotten a second. So we have a motion to do it, do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Now we can discuss the motion that's on the floor of moving it to 2 o'clock. Mr. Snyder, I see you got your light on.
If we do decide to change to 2 o'clock, and then I don't see how it can take place next month, as those cases have already been established and the people have been informed. So it should be put off until the point where cases haven't even been filed yet.
Well, I know the cases, I don't know if the case has been filed for next month already, correct?
Correct.
So yes, we can't change it. I don't think we
Right.
can change it, I don't think it'd be the right thing to do, even though we may have the authority to do it. I don't think it's the right thing to do, is to change those cases.
Right,
When
we
peop-
just start in May or June or
Yeah.
something, but down the line.
Yes. Would you like to or would you like to add to your motion of a timeline? Or amend your motion? Go ahead, Mr. Valentine.
I would like to make a motion to
But wait, you
vote.
already got a motion. You can either amend your motion or
I
or
want to
withdraw.
amend my motion.
Amend it or withdraw your motion, make a new motion, either way.
That's more options than I am able to comprehend.
Huh? You want to amend your motion?
I make a motion to amend my motion.
Okay.
And so my motion is that we go ahead and vote today on moving the time of our meeting from 3 o'clock to 2 o'clock, but to not start that until the month of May 2020.
I second.
Okay, we got a amended motion. We're gonna vote on amended motion that to move it to 2 o'clock starting in May. So would everyone, is there any discussion on the amended motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
do we have to open it up to the public for comment?
No comment.
Is there any other comments from the public? We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? We're voting on the amended motion. Yeah, we need 2 votes. First is to amend his motion. And would everyone please vote with your lights?
Mr. Fandle?
I voted yeah.
Okay,
but-
okay, okay. Oh. Motion carries.
Okay, now we vote on the main motion.
Change the time.
Yeah.
Motion carries.
Okay, motion carries. Do we have any new business, any other new business?
We have 4 new cases for next month.
So just to remind everyone, next April, the April meeting will be,
May.
April will be due at 3 o'clock, May will be at 2 o'clock, and then from then on at 2 o'clock. Motion to adjourn.
Let me just make
Okay.
a comment. I really wasn't pleased with the way Bender really kind of handled the group.